Well, good morning, Lufkin Central and online worship community. Jason Hollinger, the campus and community minister here. And for our time in Jesus and Coffee this morning, um, couldn't find my phone that was right next to me. We are going to be in Habakkuk chapter 3. No matter how you pronounce it, that's where we're going to be. Habakkuk chapter 3. And, yesterday we were talking about, kind of or really the last couple of days, kind of the response, the complaint, the voice, just frustrations of Habakkuk, the prophet, and God's response. And then yesterday, kind of along these lines of writing down the vision, writing down God's response for this generation and future generations to come. And today in chapter 3, he jumps right in and makes a very powerful statement and an important reminder for us as well. Listen to this, Habakkuk uh, chapter 3. We're going to look at verse 2. He says this, "O Lord, I have heard the report of you." That's how the ESV says it. The NIV says, "I have heard of your fame and your work, O Lord, do I fear. In the midst of the years, revive it, and in the midst of the years, make it known. Uh, and wrath, remember mercy." And that was the ESV. And again, I want to look at the NIV. Uh, you know, I have heard of your fame, and I love this. And this is what makes me think of a song. And for some of you, you may realize it here in a minute what I'm saying. But he says, "I stand in awe of your deeds, Lord." You know, the song that we sing, "You are beautiful beyond description, too marvelous for words, too wonderful for comprehension." Right? Just like nothing ever seen or heard. Who can grasp your infinite wisdom? Who can fathom, just the depths of your love? You are beautiful beyond description, majesty above, and it's and I stand in awe of you. And just even kind of, thinking about that I stand in awe of you. There's a practice of old. It's called Lectio Divina, and don't get lost in trying to figure it out and pronouncing it and spelling it. But really, it means, it's a Latin phrase. It means divine meditation. And here, he says, "I stand in all of your deeds, Lord. Repeat them in our day. In our time, make them known. In wrath, remember mercy." You know, God told Habakkuk, "And I'm going to do some things in your time that you wouldn't believe me if I told you. And those that even that I'm going to use it to accomplish this purpose, it may be a struggle for you to understand that or to believe it or why it happens this way." And you know, in the midst of this, in the midst of all of this, Habakkuk's saying, "God, listen, I have heard of your fame. I have heard of the things you have done." Think back from just everything, the Exodus, just the time in the wilderness and in the battles they're in the promised land on their way to Canaan, and just time and time again, Habakkuk saying, "Listen, I have heard of your fame. I know about your awesome deeds. I know about these things. I'm aware of them." He just says, repeat them in our time today. Repeat them in our days. And as you are issuing your wrath on those, remember your mercy. And I don't think Habakkuk is saying that he has forgotten how to be merciful, but he is just saying, "In wrath, remember mercy." Help us to see that there's hope. Help us to see that this is not the end of our story. Help us to see that there is something more. There is something beyond this. God, help us to see you. Help us to know you. Help us to rise up. Rise up in the midst of chaotic times. Rise up in times where, maybe we haven't been reminded so much of the awesome deeds of God. It's often a struggle. It's often a struggle to see and to remember and to be aware and to speak of the great things, the blessings of God, those things that we are thankful for. We're coming up here fairly soon on Thanksgiving, right? A lot of families have a tradition of going around the table and talking about what you're thankful for. Right now, it is difficult to think about things that we're thankful for when all we do is focus on the things that that are that are just happening right now. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be aware of those things that are happening right now. These are very real, stressful, and just difficult moments that we're going through. But God is still God. God is still at work, and God is still doing awesome deeds. God is still doing awesome things. And I don't think it's wrong for us to say, God, repeat that in our day. Help us, God, to be reminded of that. Help us to see again, God, of your goodness. Help us to speak of it. Help us to experience it. And now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is God issuing his wrath. I know there are so many that have, and I don't even want to go there, that have said, this is God punishing it. That's besides the point. Because even in those moments when we feel like, God, why are you doing this to us? All these things, God is still issuing his wrath and his mercy. God is still judging. God is still performing his will, delivering his will with the ultimate purpose of what? That we would come to him, that we would return to him as those created in the image of who he is and all that he has done. Those created in his image with his breath of life in us. God is seeking to restore things. And so, yes, just as the Holy Spirit inspired Paul to say to Timothy, preach the word, right? Be prepared in season, out of season, correct, rebuke, encourage. It says, with great patience and careful instruction. Correct, rebuke, encourage. In wrath, remember mercy. See, the purpose, I believe, of God's judgment, of God's, helping us to see that we have drifted, that we've gone off course, is so that we can experience his mercy, so that we can experience the hope that he provides. So my challenge to you today is, how are you going to go about reminding someone of the good deeds of God? How are you going to be a part of telling the story in our day? Yesterday we talked about visions for today and tomorrow, all the tomorrows we have. How are you going to live in this moment and show someone that our God is an awesome God and we can stand in awe of him because he is beautiful beyond description? Can't wait to hear and see how it goes. You'll have a great day. God bless.